I want to check these, make sure that they're going. Bam, 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 bam. All right, that one says live. This one, refresh it. You know, I should really get a YouTube bot going too. Is this not the right one? Is this not the right YouTube chat? Nope. Am I live right now? I don't even know on YouTube. It's not showing it. Usually it does. I don't even know if I'm live on YouTube right now. That's not correct. It should be public and edit description. Do 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 do. Excellent connection. There it is. Okay, I see. It's just being a butt. Alright, game. Ffxiv doesn't have the correct thumbnail, so let's fix that real quick. There it is. Save. Alright, perfect. Minimize, because I got it open. Actually, I need that chat window. And pop out chat. Remember that we once lived. Ba, 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 ba. Ba, da, ba, da, ba, ba, ba. Okie dokie, Mike. Here, can I pull this over here and still get it the same? Probably gonna have to, like... Is this how we had it? Something like that? That works. So then I can have it right in front of me. And let's kill that background. Quit that. Have wave open so we can work with stuff. All right, Mike. Show me what you got. Let's pause this and play this.
Divisive! That is the word of the day when it comes to Dawn Trail, Final Fantasy XIV's latest expansion, and more importantly, the beginning of a new journey for the Warrior of Light.
Okay, Mike, tell us what you thought about
And at the end of
Endwalker.
Endwalker, we saw our favorite scions divided, no longer being able to stay together, because if they do, people do fear that the end of the world is nigh. So what do we have? We have, of course, been visited by the Hrothgar, the new race, Wook Lamat, and we, along with the twins and Kryl, are going to be joining Wook Lamat on her journey to become the Dawn Servant in this new land of Taral.
Yep.
Similarly, our dads of the crew, our old men, Rion, Jay, and Thancred,
The dads of the
joining
crew.
Dawn Servant Potentiae, Mr. Kona.
I like Kona. I thought Kona was good.
They're going to help them in
Kona
some
was fun.
friendly rivalry among friends. Of course, we've got Estinian,
Definitely
who is just
enjoyable.
randomly out of nowhere, surprise, to go on a vacation to Taral. So he has to be there as well.
I mean, what do you expect? He disappeared on us during Stormblood. We had no idea where he was. He was actually I'm pretty sure he was in Garlemald most of the time. And yeah, that was in Stormblood. And then Shadowbringers Shadowbringers, he was not there. He was in Garlemald again. And then he finally decided to join us during Endwalker. So him showing up here is lovely. His parts, though be small, were very fun. I enjoyed when he was on screen.
But we do have our mega nerds, Yashtola and Graha. They're going to be hanging back and waiting to join the story later.
Wife.
We did see in the trailer
Wife.
they are going to
Husband.
be joining us. And as we go
Wife.
into this new expansion, certain
Husband.
expectations are rife. In top place, of course, it's Kryl,
Yes.
our beloved Kryl. We can't wait to find out what's going to be happening with her, her origins, everything following Galuf and Eureka. We're going to be finding out what's going on there in her homeland. And then, of course, we have
enjoyed that.
Apparently, I'm not dismissing it, thirst trap. That is our bunny boy, Erenville. He's going to be in second place of things we're expecting.
Very.
Love Erenville very
perfect.
Much. Okay. And in third place, of course, is the
perfect
Dawn
man to have
Servant.
with
This
us.
is going to be dealing with Wuklamat and Kona and their mission to solve all these issues that are happening to Taral in our brand new continent. Now, is that what we got?
Kind of.
Kinda?
Yeah.
A little bit. A lot of people have said
Uh-huh.
that Dawn Trail's advertising and marketing isn't what they bought. They were marketed and lied to. That is really, really unfair.
Yeah, I agree. Very unfair because, like, we go from the height of writing that was Endwalker, from the story that we had, and all that, you know, the big bad, this is the culmination of 10 years worth of story just coming down to the end. That was it. Now we're starting over as a, you know, if we had a Final Fantasy 14-2, which of course they'd never do that. But yeah, now we have to build up the stakes again. And to do that, that's what the first half of this whole story was. We have to build up the characters, give us some type of, I forgot what the word is, something to protect. People that we want to protect, new people, a whole culture that we learned about, and we want to be able to protect it. You know, something to fight for. Because that's what's happening. We're learning about this new culture and learning to love it and wanting to fight for it. Oh no.
14 goes out of its way because it is a story game first to ensure that there's no spoilers, that everything will be enjoyed in the story, and they give you the tiniest little snippets of things to tease you in. But there's nobody getting into this knowing that, like, oh, they're going to share with me what's going to happen. This isn't World of Warcraft, right? That's not going to happen.
That's one thing I can't stand about WoW. Like, I really do enjoy WoW as a game, but its story is just bleh. Bleh. It's not that good anymore. I can't. The last time I had a lot of fun in WoW was I mean, to be honest, it was probably the war campaign for Battle for Azeroth. That was the last time I really had fun with the story. And then it just kind of, after the tree burned down, it was just kind of really meh. But then again, World of Warcraft had their end of a long-running story back in Legion with Argus, fighting on Argus. So, yeah. After that, they just kind of just went downhill from there, in my opinion.
However, I do think it's fair to say, people's expectations were obviously very high for certain characters to get a lot of screen time, and they wanted that. And in that regard, they did miss the mark. We are, of course, going to be talking about every detail of the MSQ.
A little bit, yeah.
Spoilers ahead, but here we go. An issue with Dawn Trail we have to deal with is that it attempts way too much.
Part one, part two.
That it's hard to structure this video. So I'm going to keep it simple. There's two parts, pre and post Dawn Servant, or more accurately, pre and post Trolley.
Oh, God. Okay,
let's get into the Wuklamat subject. I'm sure you're all invested in this.
Oh, my goodness.
Before we get into the details of how I arrived here.
How you doing, Bree? I'm watching Preach talk about the MSQ for Dawn Trail, So you might want to. Oh, okay, you're at work. All right. Thanks for stopping in and throwing out an alert. That's great. I enjoy that. Bad feedback. You're bad feedback. Yeah, you're bad feedback. But yeah, good to see you drop in, even if you are at work. So just since you're at work, go ahead, get all the display phones. Go ahead, put the stream on all the display phones so that they can watch and get spoiled about Dawn Trail. Yeah. Oh my god, it's so slow. Do it. Do it. Bree. Do it. Do it. You should totally do it. Do it. Do it. Put me on all the phones. Do it. Do it. Put me on the phones. Oh my god. No, you're having bad feedback. I'm having bad feedback. Let me monitor myself so I could hear it. Hello? Hello? Bad feedback? Bad feedback. I can't hear it. Is it me?
I want to say that I personally believe Wookla.
I don't really hear it. Everything you say goes through twice. What? How's that work? Okay. Do I have Twitch chat open by accident? Or not Twitch chat, but Twitch thing open? Oh no! Ooh! Of course, it's always scuff. When is it never scuffed? Right here. That's muted. Twitch, are you muted? Is Twitch muted? I can't tell. I'm pretty sure it is. That's pop out stream. I didn't want to pop out the stream. Put it back. Show the player. No, the player's muted. Put it back. Show the player. No, the player's muted. I'm not coming back twice. That must be your phone. Because it's not me. Or at least it's not on my end. And I didn't hear it on my Twitch. I don't know. Okay, minimize Discord. Close this window. I'm huge. I'm a big squirrel. I'm a big squirrel. Is it because... Okay, here, let's do that.
Matt was entirely doomed as a character before we ever clicked the install button. In a recent podcast with Grinding Gear and OK Mage and Jesse Cox, we discussed the idea of the Scions taking a back seat for a while. Maybe they would move away, like we'd seen with Y'shtola in Stormblood, and then come back later on. And instead, what they decided to do is what I've
Yeah, I'm not hearing any of the feedback.
Of the Scions of the Seventh Dawn. What do I mean by that? I mean they kept
explain yourself.
them in front of us like a cat with string, so we'd be all excited and happy and our tails would be going, and then they would rip them away from us just as quickly so that we were left frustrated and angry. Have a look at this, because this is probably something you remember of just how many ways they came up with introducing the Scions in an epic fashion and then very quickly taking them away.
Oh, yeah, Justinian showing up. I don't... Oh. We're not not going to work with you.
Endwalker
We're going
disbanded
to.
the
Okay.
Scions under the idea that when they get together, people get nervous because the world is probably about to explode. I
And
can buy into
Eorzea.
that, but it doesn't make any sense in Tyrrell. They have no
Yeah,
idea who the Scions are, so we
see?
can dispense with that reasoning for this separation. Squeenix do have a real issue, though, and they've realized it. The Scions and their friends cover nearly every aspect of friction that they could run up against. They're experts in the physical and the ethereal, so when we encounter tech issues, for example, we should be calling Sid. Massive golden gate with weird ether, Y'shtola and Yuri should be on speed dial. Giant army threatening to overthrow a continent, Estinian and Thancred should be front and center. When we don't do those things, it's just stupid. The Wuklomat focus is taken to ludicrous extremes when Solution 9 is about to go to full war.
I really thought,
the Scions defending towns with a population of 50 instead of being in the frontline primary battle. Although the cutscene was very, very cool.
Yes.
Wild Westinian is easily one of, if not the most powerful fighter on Etheris. Better not bring him along, eh? Or preceding our difficult ascension of Solution 9, we suddenly have the Scions appear at the top to join us with no setup or foreshadowing because
they just...
we need 8 people
for
the
here.
upcoming trial. It's really strange considering all of the other single-player FFs that have the teams rejoining do this better. They let you know that the team is moving in other directions, and in fact some of the previous dungeons have you seeing the other Scions maneuvering through a tower, for example, doing other things so they make sense that they appear at the end.
At the Tower of
It
Zot,
just constantly feels out of place. So how does this affect what I think of Wuklomat? It built constant resentment to the character.
A little bit,
cool.
yeah.
Y'shtola and Graha are here with all the fanfare and music. This is going to be awesome. We have a golden city door, and now the nerds are here to crack it open, and we have a whole new dynamic to the story, and they're gone. Now, I don't know the reason for this. Perhaps they thought they couldn't have the Scions involved, but it's not their story, so they're there, but they're not because it needs to be about Wuklomat. Perhaps the voice actors are getting too expensive now, or busy with other projects, like Graha is in a popular TV show. It's noticeable with Y'shtola's voice mix. It's way lower quality than the rest. Did she see that she only had 20 lines for the entire expansion or so and just send it from her house? There are many possibilities, but as it's always had, our beloved characters are just being sent away all the time so we can go back to Wuklomat, and it just builds that anger from the audience. Even if people loved Wuklomat, they would still be angry that...
Yeah, this right here. It was a bit much. Like, I know that they're introducing a new character. It's like I'm trying to think of how they could do that. How that they could make what was already done better. But like so my first thought was she reminded me a lot of Lise from Stormblood. And I was trying to be, you know, toxically positive, as they're all saying, but it just kept seeping into my mind. Kept seeping into my thoughts because it was just like, they kind of pulled a Stormblood with Wuklomat, or at least with Wuklomat. It's
Graha
just so...
is gone as fast as he arrived to once again talk with Wuklomat. Someone dug through the voice files and found this ratio of dialogue for the characters. It's actually really shocking. You consider that the second most voiced lines in all of the dialogue of Dawn Trail, it belongs to a character that doesn't appear until the post-trolley era. So, with that said, how much do I like Wuklomat? Well,
that's...
much, sadly. Look, I don't hate Wuklomat. I really don't. I actually have a lot of time and a lot of forgiveness for that character, but she was speedrun through a crazy story arc that needed...
Yeah, she was. She's like the, what's the word I'm looking for? I saw a meme. No, it's not a word, it's a meme. I saw a meme a couple days ago of, the patient boyfriend only for his girlfriend and the dumb girlfriend.
Needed a lot more
that's
time
what Wuklomat felt like.
A lot more breaks to allow it to grow and breathe. I truly believe they should have done Wuklomat's growth period of time during the Endwalker MSQ. It's actually, if you think about it, remarkably similar to what Zero goes through. We have these two characters which are kind of blank canvases and ignorant of the
Oh,
world, introduced into new
yeah.
environment and new culture, and they go through growth to eventually become someone we can kind of rely on and utilize in battle and all kinds of things like that. But they couldn't. Probably because she's a Hrothgar. They wanted to save the reveal of the new race until closer and closer to Dawntrail. It's too much. Dawntrail has way too much to do. They've got to take this absolutely blank slate of Wuklammat,
Yeah.
get her all the way to being the Dawn Servant, and then they needed to introduce a brand new villain and have her tackle those issues and go through that whole story, and it created all kinds of weird pacing issues in the story.
Yeah, but that villain
Dawntrail's
was
MSQ
just
is
like
both extremely slow and it's way too
okay.
fast
We'll talk about that once we
Wuklammat
get there.
got least at the start. She's way too ignorant of her
Ah,
homeland.
I'm not the only one.
I can pretend that she was extremely sheltered as a child to protect her from would-be assassins and never really left Tuliolol, but that still doesn't add up to how unaware she is of the people of her homeland. Tuliolol from the get-go is shown that ever since the Dawn Servant came to be, it's culturally diverse as hell. Wuklammat even takes us on a historical tour of the tablets, showing the rich history of the Dawn Servant and the people that Daddy came to rule over and bring together. She tours us the city, showing the culinary delights, the marketplace full of people from all over Taral, yet she at the same time knows absolutely nothing whatsoever about them. It's as if she's seen these like weird still 2D images of people her entire life and never once interacted with them, which we know isn't true. Now, I get it. It's to allow us to learn of the cultures of Taral, this new zone that we're exploring through her eyes, but her ignorance just doesn't add up. She's never in her life known of the Hanu Hanu greeting, for example, despite being at their festival at least once before. So I guess we're to assume that the Hanu Hanu never greeted anyone in a traditional way at their annual traditional festival,
Well,
or that despite their heavy presence in the marketplaces that she spent her entire childhood life in, she isn't aware of the Pelu.
but like how? Okay, how old is Wuklamad? That's one thing I want to know because she's like a young adult, and if you base it on the real life young adults that we have now, I would not put it past her to not know a damn thing about anybody else being that sheltered.
Pelu traits of trading.
Because there are a lot of people that have no idea what anybody does outside of their hometown.
I've seen lots of people try to justify this, maybe that, maybe she forgot, well, she was a child and child is stupid. I have 2 kids. It just doesn't work that way. I don't buy it, and it just started to grate on me. The same can be said for her power creep, and once again, this is a divisive opinion. It's really quick. It's a really quick turnaround from someone who is just very easily dismissed physically by Bakul Jar Jar to not only like beating him later, but also while crushing 50 men at the same time. Now, while in canon, she has faced dungeons and a trial with our help, which is important because we are the Warrior of Light. We are a nuclear weapon in a world where people are throwing rocks at each other.
Yeah.
It's still an enormous leap of power
We are.
she ends up having, which is more akin to an anime strength of finding and discovering one's inner power. I imagine.
Who did I watch? Oh man, I wish I could remember her name, but I watched her video of her thought process of the story, and she compared it to being a shonen manga, which makes a lot of sense. You go through the trials, you know, you meet your new friends, you go through the trials. Spoiler, holy shit, you're strong. So we'll get to that next part.
Imagine the idea was to demonstrate how strong and independent she's become to rise to the role of the Dawn Servant, but it just came across rushed and unearned. More so if you did the dungeon or the trial with friends.
Yeah.
I don't understand why we just don't have her be a really great fighter from the start. Have her interrupt Bakul Jar Jar like she does, but physically stand up to him. And then in the aftermath, show her being terrified.
Okay, that was
Show her
really
shaking.
cool, though.
Yes, she can stand up to him physically, but she's terrified. And she's terrified of failing because at that point, it would shatter this ideal vision of what the Dawn Servant should be in her eyes. Her story journey is more about her ability to lead different peoples than swing an axe. mixed with the regular
Okay.
vomiting, childish approach to a perceived image.
This
It's
was a
just
bit
immature,
much.
and immaturity is rife in
Yeah,
Dawn Trail.
this.
It's a major step back from the
Oh lord.
morally grey and ambiguous topics of the past.
Yeah,
I was
this.
totally taken aback by
The sure, yes, it's very it gives good character, but it's just it was almost just a little bit too much. It dragged on too long. Just the mm,
by a few things. The
I didn't like
cliche
it.
changing minds of generations of racism from the rebellious giants because we helped one out during a random encounter, the downplaying of the eugenics by the Mamul, and that the power of friendship never at any point backfires for Wuklamat. It's more of a Saturday morning cartoon lesson at best. We all know.
Yeah, the shonen manga. You know, talk no jutsu. she's a master of talk no jutsu.
Reality is very, very different, and FF14 traditionally has done this extremely well. Garlemald. Garlemald is one of my favourite zones in all of Final Fantasy XIV. It's
Some of the
handled with
best
such care, and it's true to life origins of a population that has known generational war. People born into war and died in war and had children that were raised into war. They have only known, lived and breathed the propaganda and the state-published media that everybody outside of Garlemald is a demon and a liar. And it's told so well through the simple story of two sisters.
Yep.
That the twins genuinely want to help and care for because they're in trouble, they're in danger,
That
and
was...
they end up dead. And they end up dead because they can't believe that anybody from outside would ever be nice because that is all they've ever known. That is reality.
That really is reality.
We see it in history books every single day. And it doesn't happen in Dawn Trail. It's cartoonish. We
like
have encounters with racists, eugenics, genocide. All that happens in Dawn Trail, and it's dealt with in such a friendly, happy-go-lucky way with Wuklamat, and it's almost hand-waved and dealt with within literal minutes in some occasions, and sorted, and we all go on our merry way with big smiles on our faces.
So, like, in a part that I think he's getting ready to talk about, I just felt like that character had it was really quick, but it was like a really good story arc or character development for him. So it's just like I would have liked to see that stretched out a little bit longer and go into more detail about them. But you know, by the end of the story, I grew to like this character.
I was desperately waiting, and I truly believe this was a negative for Wuklamat to not have to deal with this. But when her happy-go-lucky, power of friendship attitude would meet somebody who is going to say no. No. Somebody who genuinely is an evil person that we know exists in the real world, who would manipulate, who would change, who would utilize humans' lives and suffering, as we well know, for their own gain, and tell her to do one. That could be a real friction that character could come up against where this attitude just doesn't work. And it just never happened. So those are my thoughts on Wuklamat, the pros and the cons. And I believe the English voice actor did a tremendous job, but it was just a doomed venture from the get-go. So let's talk about the pre-trolley story itself.
So the voice acting in Dawn Trail, I feel like that it was very good. Very, very good. I enjoyed anything that was voiced. It was just very enjoyable in my opinion. I mean, I'm not a voice actor. I've never attempted to voice act, but I feel like that they did a really good job.
It's a slow start, man. Cultures is the theme of Dawn Trail, obviously, but this time we aren't coming in with that pre-established set
definitely
of characters,
slow.
An ongoing story that we're heavily invested in. That's fine. We are building to some...
Yeah, by the time I tried to wait when the expansion released. I tried to wait 2 weeks before starting the story. Obviously, that didn't happen because then I didn't stream it. And yay, brain for being a little shit. But by the time I got to the first trial, it felt like I was supposed to be halfway through the game by then. So it was fun to learn, but it felt like that it took forever to get there.
something bigger. We all know that. However, it does mean that we just don't have as much forgiveness than we would have for, say, Endwalker, where we know we're getting to something or a conclusion. The Pelu Pelu zones and the Hanu Hanu are very drawn out. The zones are utterly incredible visually, but the gameplay is a little rough. It comes once again to pacing. Every time I think of what grabbed my attention, the time was thrown at something else. The Mamool are by far the most interesting story.
Okay, there we go. We're getting to the spot.
How did this eugenics work to form all these babies, especially when we see how many have been placed into the jars? Were the tribes forced together in the goal? Was it essentially illegal to reproduce within your own tribe? What of the people who failed to produce? Were their parents dealt with in some way? Were they using essential baby factories? I don't say this in some sort of morbid fascination, honestly, but this is literally how eugenics worked historically.
Yeah.
But there's no time given to that in comparison to, say, saving the reeds for the Hanu, or learning the secret, not-so-secret cooking recipe. Shaloni also falls into this box. This was a zone I loved so much. It was a flavor change from the jungles of the other zones, and I liked the premise of the zone. A somewhat lawless area representing the old gold rush time of North America. They even built a wall, operating somewhat like outside of the Dawn Servant's purview as long as they didn't get too out of control, so they dispensed their own justice. It was fantastic for me. However, the really interesting part of this was the Native American representation. The cerulean mining and the advancing technology of the area has clearly been causing a lot of problems for the locals and especially the wildlife. So, this could have been a really interesting moment in having the perspectives of our brand new...
That's what he means by the Native American aspect, the Mikote, or however you say what they call themselves. I don't know how to say it. Maybe we'll get more in the patches?
New Dawn Servants.
Because if... I mean... I don't know. I don't know how their process is with writing patch stories. I don't know how far ahead the development is from release of a patch to where they're at in the next patch for story-wise. I don't know how... that timeline. I'm sitting here using my hands, but you can't see my hands.
Wuklamat and Kona. On the one hand, Wuklamat is far more empathetic to people's plights and the issues are clear. However, Kona would probably point out that the advancement of Taral is far more important. Connecting the realm via rail, the benefits of ceruleum that he's seen are clear and worth what he would probably perceive as minor inconveniences. So what happens with this interesting dynamic? We just tell them, don't worry about it. If you have any concerns, Kona will probably deal with it, and then we take all their resources and we leave. This is just another story with an established historical, factual, deep history for them to draw on, but it's just hand-waved so we can go into an epic trolley building cutscene.
Oh, God. I was just like... I was like this the whole time. I didn't even mute it.
Not Gloom, though. One of the stories I thought they handled supremely well in the pre-trolley era of the MSQ was Wuklamat's biological father. A good man who didn't abandon her because he didn't want her, but for her safety. Had to send her over to Glul Jar Jar. And this information he doesn't want her to know because she's risen to such a powerful, strong person of herself, and he's super proud of her. Immediately, this is used against her by Bakul Jar Jar to upset her, make her angry, put her on the back foot so he can smash and crush her, and she doesn't take it that way. The story was done super well. You're not my father. Biologically you are, but I was raised well. Glul Jar Jar looked after me. He gave me so much. He treated me well. I had a wonderful childhood, and now I'm here. Perspective Dawn Servant. And he respects that. He totally understands it. And it's so wonderful that we see later on how proud he is to actually rise to the Dawn Servant. And how...
This story actually hit me pretty hard. Don't really want to go into detail about that, but yeah, I liked this little story arc. It was touching. It was very touching.
Such a crying shame that he had to listen to that song.
Yay! Idyllic society with no flaws.
I forgot about the song playing in this part. It's so bad. Like, okay, the song is not bad. It's not bad. It did not fit the tone for the trolley build. It did not fit the tone of what we were going to do. It was just a little bit rough. So I the beginning of the song I do not enjoy personally. The rest of it gets better. Overall, if you look at it as in a musical perspective, it's a good song. It is a good song, but it is not my type of song. And the placement of the song in certain story parts did not fit the overall emotional feel. That's what I have to say about it. Like, for the trolley, this part, it's okay. It just feels like that it just smacks you once it starts. You're never ready for it when the song starts. You're never ready for it.
What the fuck is this song? Okay. I suppose here's a good time to talk about some of the scenes that seem to have been not retconned, that's the wrong word, but additional stuff has been added afterwards because of probably internal reception. Now, I want to be clear on something. This happens with every single story. This is nothing new, is they test the story with some people who don't know what's going to happen, and by their reactions, they change some things around. The most obvious scene in this is, of course, the Hanu Hanu with the reeds. I know for a fact, with the amount of people who were watching me go through this, that I was not the only one who was like, what? Where they performed their little ritual and suddenly all the reeds went from dead to full grown and flourishing out of nowhere, and I was like, what the hell? They didn't know that this ritual that they have done traditionally has this kind of effect. And people were getting mad, and they said, keep playing. And what they'd done is they'd added a character in later, who does appear in different parts of the story, but then comes in with like a very blatant and quick explanation of what happened, because it is not set up beforehand. They point out like, oh, well, actually, the ritual had become more theatric than actually some sort of like ritual
what he's
to keep the plants. It's just something we did. And I can buy into that. I really can. We have something similar in the UK called Bonfire Night, where they throw a literal effigy of a human man. This sounds really horrible. Onto a fire, and we all stand there and cheer, and we have treacle toffee and all that kind of stuff. Now, the real meaning of that is absolutely lost on most people as to what it is. It's actually not a good thing by any means. But it's a good excuse now for a night out where there's a fire and people toast marshmallows and things like that. So I totally buy into it. Now, that's okay.
Okay.
It's just that clearly there are a few...
My over the seas friends, I need to learn more about this. I don't understand. I feel like I've seen something like that in no, I'm probably confusing it with something else that I've seen in anime. I want to know more about this. I gotta know more about that.
Few moments in the story that aren't delivered properly because, let me be clear with you, internally here, certainly me and Chris, we have sat and talked about certain things for like 45 minutes to try and get our heads around what just happened. I swear to God, we've sat here doing that regularly leading into this video.
Please.
None more so
explain
than what I would consider the most divisive cutscene in the game.
Yes.
The death of Galul Jar Jar. This started so damn well.
Yeah.
The cool Jar Jar's path to redemption, the horror in the streets as the citizens were being cut down, seemingly their essence being sucked right out of them, and the showdown between father and son. However, the actual death scene really hit me, and I know it hit many others very wrong. Look,
yeah, it was very just like...
It was honorable and culturally appropriate for the one-on-one at the very start. But the resurrection of Zeral should have absolutely had the entire Scion army jumping in immediately to help.
Yeah.
Certainly when he popped the berserk button. Now, I know people suggest it all happened in an instant like a D&D turn, but I've rewatched this thing several times. That is just not what happens. Zeral has a very slow, drawn-out dialogue and build-up after the resurrection, before then going on the offensive with clashing swords while everyone just pointlessly watches on, and they even cut to reacts from the onlookers like TikTokers on the prowl. I hated this. But
Yeah,
it
I
was
felt
then
like
made worse
this.
later on in the outskirts. Wuklamat is about to confront Zeral Jar. And here Alize makes a huge deal about how if it ever looks unfair, and I understand the cultural attack, then we're getting involved because it could be moronic not to do that. And I was screaming, yes, it would be moronic not to do that. Once again, it felt like they were trying to rectify a problem that they had found in testing. It's also a case of not having to put characters in this situation in the first place and avoid this whole mess entirely. Tuliolol is being sieged. Have the Scions blockaded from the throne room, having to watch on in distress, or have the room full of Zeral Jar's guards slowing them down, something other than just standing and watching him and let him leave.
Yeah, I can agree with that. It would have been better if us as the Warrior of Light were separated from the rest of the group. That would have made a lot more sense for this scene.
Now, I know a lot of people actually don't mind this. I really mind this. But thankfully, we're moving on. The weaponized trolley is built, so
Oh, Lord.
let's blow it up and meet definitely not sus AF Queen Ffxiv.
Yeah, I was very...
Oh, now it gets going. The big reveal of the threat in the previews.
This is part 2, by the way. Yeah, Queen Ffxiv, I was just... Okay, he'll get to it. He'll get to it.
Dawntrails is here. Ffxiv
going ahead.
is so sus. It is way more sus than the first time we met Meteon, and time has moved on. Immediately, I was hit with that familiar FF14 joy of speculation. Have we time traveled? Is this even our world or a reflection? Erenville's scared to death. It's all gotten weird. The USB people are hella suspects, and Mommy's a floating robot leading a rebellion, and also she is very blatantly already dead. I was loving pretty much everything from this moment on. My sci-fi nerd brain was in overdrive, and so many questions and possibilities raised. Most of which got discussed, especially the overriding thought. Solution 9 can never, ever work. I was ecstatic that Graha pointed this out to Ffxiv, and she had to ignore it. Her programming just doesn't account for failure, just to preserve the system, save the people. That's her job. Ffxiv is honestly the most tragic character in the story.
She really was.
How manipulated has she been by those who brought her back to enact their vision of paradise?
But, like, was it her manipulation, or was she manipulated, or was that just her construct fixing itself to become more perfect, and it got to the point where it knows that it can't perfect it, but it will not stop its mission?
What traits, memories, and so on were taken to set her on this path? Especially because it's revealed she can alter her program. Has she done it before?
See, that's what that's what I mean. That's what that right there. Yeah, that's what I mean.
For what reason? Is she even remotely close to the original queen at all at this point? The whole concept of Solution 9 is terrifying. Namika is such a wonderful character for this poisoned paradise to play out. A loving, caring surrogate mother who spent her entire life caring for others, just to be forgotten on a whim.
Oh,
and
yeah,
she had
as soon as that
lovely
happened.
Resolution
Oh,
in
my
living
God.
memory. This simple, honest storyline opens so many doors that aren't just thrust in your face. Are those people who are children in the living memory? Are they actually children? Or are they that way because that's the only time they were happy in their entire lives? Have parents not only lost children tragically, but now no longer remember them? Could they literally be walking past their children in the streets and not know it? They wouldn't remember them even in this utopic afterlife.
Yeah.
A thread that is explored with the loving man, who's waited decades for his love to enter the afterlife, only for her not to remember who he ever was. I'm barely scratching the surface of what all this manipulation of people's minds constantly leads
I don't need to be disconnected.
It's
Stop
certainly
it.
not utopia, and it's certainly not new. There's great examples of this idea that are explored in movies such as Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and once again, Doctor Who's episode Gridlock, a society that
I haven't
uses
watched any of
drugs
those.
to forget bad aspects of their lives.
Yeah, so the idea of it being a utopia and you never have to know the feeling of loss, that's terrifying to me. Like, that is absolutely terrifying. I don't know what I would do if I didn't have any memories of somebody that I've lost. It's because having their memories lets them live on in in our hearts. And like it it just sounds so it's so horrible. Taking those memories and then letting them live out their dreams, but at the sacrifice of those who still live not remembering you. It's just like with the Yokui, the giants. They believe that they live on through the memories of through the stories that they have through the stories that they have left. By their memory, they may live longer. When they truly die, they are already forgotten.
Certainly cannot wait to deal with the fallout of shutting down the whole system this society has relied on for such a long time. It's the post-MSQ that I crave, for the same reasons of dealing with the fallout of Ishgard, losing their religious foundation, and then what happens next. Otis/Steiner was just wonderful. His
Oh my
everlasting
god,
commitment to
he's
his
so
calling as
great.
the broken knight who in his mind failed his mission and now finds himself caring for the future king once again. His reappearance in living memory was even more special as we gave him the solace he never knew in life. As you can tell, overall, I very much enjoyed the final 3 zones of the game. It isn't perfect.
Very, very
I mentioned
good.
some of those moments earlier with random Scion appearances, and it set up the future. We have a key in our hands, Azem's involvement, and an ever-decreasing reason as to why we can't move between reflections.
I know.
The future
it's going to be
is going to
great.
be very bright.
Could this be?
Villainy.
You seek to bewilder me for purposes most foul.
Most foul.
But so far we have discussed Wuklamat's story. Remember, that was number 3 on the list of things that we were excited
God,
for.
Aaronville's story.
But what
Oh
of the
my
Bunny
god.
Man? And what, of course, of our good lady Kryle?
Oh my boy.
I can't say I was enamored as others with Aaronville coming into Dawn Trail. I like him fine, but not much more than that. His awkward, almost Vulcan nature being prodded by
Okay,
his...
preach. Okay, I'll give. Okay. Aaronville is the boy. All right. Aaronville is the boy. Him and his mother's story is the best. Okay. You cannot go and say this. Preach. I will. No. Their story was precious. It was super sad. It just. No. He's the boy. Aaronville the boy.
Childhood friend was very fun. The relationship him and his mother had was a little odd, as he is mainly sidelined.
That is not odd. That is precious. That is a very loving mother, preach.
Into exposition man throughout most of the...
I don't know anything about your past, preach, so that's all I'm not going to make the your mom joke. So
MSQ, but
going.
it doesn't pick up until the outskirts and Robo Mommy appears. Firstly, what an amazing job they did with her. She was such a bright spot of relief for a fussy little bun, giving the mad thoughts swimming around my head at the time. And rightly, there were those who don't exactly like what the hell is going on with the USB heads.
Oh, it's a fuzzy little
It's
bun.
following that they then sideline the story again until the finale of Living Memory. We get a brooding Aaronville. I can't say I enjoyed how the finale played out. It fit the characters, awkwardly dancing around the issue of his mother's impending final demise, but I never felt the tour of the plants was the resolution I was looking for. Certainly how odd it was that we tagged along like the biggest third wheel of all time. Seriously, that was really weird. Although it wasn't a story I was super interested in, I kind of feel bad for the Aaronville enjoyers who perhaps didn't get their fill. However, I do care about Kryle, and our girl got screwed. Our girl got totally screwed.
Really? You think so?
When this was announced and it was going to be seemingly Kryl centric, she got the new job. She was coming along with us through this thing.
Okay, I see what you're talking about.
Kryl was going to be a pretty central figure in the main story, and our girl gets hand waved off every single time. Oh, your cool thing's like a USB storage drive. It's probably got valuable information on it. We'll talk about it later. Oh, the Golden City's open, and you're.
Okay, fine. Yeah, Kryl did get screwed. She didn't have enough screen time. She really didn't. Needs more. She needs more. They better let Aaronville and Kryl take the lead for the patch stories. And Y'shtola. Because traveling between worlds, I can't do my eyebrows. Let's stop. Oh shit, sorry. Traveling between worlds with Y'shtola. Yeah. That's what I want.
Your technology allows us to open it. We'll deal with it in a bit. Oh, Galul Jar Jar has information about Guluf. In fact, everybody knows Guluf, apparently, but they're all going to tell you about it later on. You're like, dude, will you give Wooklamat? Just go over there for 10 minutes. Okay. Let us deal with some Kryl stuff. And it just doesn't happen. Our 15 minutes of fame with Kryl does come in living memory. If you were to tell me, like, picturing your scene, right? Picture in your mind that we're going to have Kryl reunite with her parents who left her all those 20-odd years ago and left her with some strange tech, and now we discover she came through this bizarre portal to another world, another reflection. What would that encounter involve? And you were to say, I'm 99% sure, Mike, that would have an ice cream fetch quest and then a player quiz is what goes with that scene. I would have been like, what? But it is how it plays out.
I mean,
now, here's the thing.
I
can't be that bad. It fits their characters. It does. The two parents are obviously as scientifically minded as Kryl is. Kryl has an endless thirst of knowledge. There's a social awkwardness there that G'raha breaks up. It's a little gratuitous, sure, but I get it. It opens the conversation. They start some dialogue. But then just as soon as we got through this, because they blue balls the hell out of it. It's like, please talk, please say something. And then they finally talk, and she immediately leaves because she's found a cool library to go and investigate where we can do tests. Awesome. We do get the answers we're looking for. That is ultimately the truth.
Library.
But I know I'm not the only one here. We just wanted more.
Yeah.
We wanted more Kryl. A little less Wooklamat, a little bit more Kryl in that cake recipe would have gone a long way. Because yes, we did get what we kind of wanted out of it, but I think we just felt disappointed. As the story came to a close,
just
the latter half gave
it's
me
just
hope.
like,
I don't hate Dawn Trail, and I believe what Yoshi P said at the US Media Tour, that this MSQ was to show what fans were and weren't receptive to, and that would guide them going forwards. It's clearly flawed, and it's deserving of its mixed response. I would really summarize missions like this.
Oh my god, he's so smart, because that's what he expected.
Interesting stuff was sidelined for seemingly the most mundane of tasks. I said earlier it's both slow and rushed. It's a consequence of just having way too much to accomplish. Heaven's Ward, Shadowbringers, and Endwalker had a primary singular focus for us to think about. The Dragonsong War, the Rejoining, the Despair, everything else added layers to that focus and built characters along the way, while still following that one central path.
God, Shadowbringers was
tries
great.
to build a whole continent, several characters, a new villain after the halfway mark, their entire backstory, and conclude it. It feels like throwing too many ideas at the wall and seeing what sticks. Secondly, the abusing of the Scions. Either have them or don't. Wooklamat was going to be resented regardless of how much people liked her. The phrase, I can't miss you if you don't go away, comes to mind. Our eyes light up when Sid, Nero, Emmerich, or Gosetsu show up because we know we're going to change the dynamic of the story for a while. Having fan favorites show up, then just run away so we can get back to what we've already been doing for the last 20 hours is frustrating at best. Thirdly, the predictions of what fans would like and dislike by Squeenix here was off the mark. No, I don't love Wooklamat. I don't hate her, but she's overwhelming everything else to an absurd degree. I truly believe, internally, they thought everyone was going to love her completely and not mind spending the entirety of the story alongside her. I would have preferred, like, the Emmerich or Hien approach. They're around a lot during their main story, but then they have other things to focus on. Sometimes to give some space.
Yeah, not stuck to her hip.
Someone can say for Bakul Jar Jar, right? He unironically has the best story arc of all the
Ha!
characters.
We agree.
While Luke learns the power of friendship, Kona learns that maybe Sharlayan doesn't have all the answers for Taral.
Yeah.
It's Bakul Jar Jar who has a solid groundwork, his abusive childhood, the importance of becoming the Dawn Servant to spare his people the horror that they have created, accepting he can fail, but then still succeed via cooperation to eventually fighting alongside.
That's how I feel about
What a great story.
Bakul Jar Jar.
Maturity. I have to believe it's intentional, but Dawn Trail feels far more targeted at a younger audience than what we've had for the last few years. Whether they feared it was getting all too heavy all the time and needed to tone back, or they're actually targeting a younger audience is hard to say. Typically, MMO gamers skew older, so it's an odd move and it was bound to cause friction. FF14 is known for tackling difficult subjects extremely well with care and subtlety, even in single expansion arcs. This time it was more Sesame Street, beating you on the head with flowers and easy wins. I think back to the great sadness I felt with Elidibus' demise, the rabid dog who lost himself. The harrowing layers of similarities that led to Emmerich and Hraesvelgr finding common ground. Justinian's path from Dragon Killer to Dragon Rider. Tesline's eyes as she was taken after her kind soul was all that was holding a camp together. All done in a way that was logical, made sense, not forced. I really missed that here, and I think many others did too.
But, like, they have so much to work with. Well, not so much to work. They had so much to build in such a short time. I think that's what it was. We didn't have the, when we started in 2.0, we already had the city-states. We already had the Garlean Empire invading. We knew of Ishgard and what was going on there. And we had a good build-up towards Ishgard in the pre-patches. Or in the post 2.0 patches. And then once we finish up with Heavensward, we start getting more and more news towards what's going on over in Alamigo. And then we start building up towards that and getting the fight on with Xenos and all of that. And then we get kind of, put all that war on hold. We're going to another world for a bit to save ourselves. And there's such a long period of time between all of those stories where you can build it all up. The only thing we ever knew about the New World was the New World. And dude that I can't remember his name, but he's Chad. He's got the Chad face going on. That's the only thing we ever knew. We didn't know anything about it. We didn't know that Tuliala was even there. And then when we get there, we have to learn about the entire, like you said, we have to learn about the entire continent. Just like there, boom. All of that within one expansion. When we went from knowing about just little Eorzea to the Far East and Dravania and the moon, and all of that takes place in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 expansions, or 5 expansions in total. Well, 4 expansions plus the reboot. And it's just like so much more time. There was more time to tell that whole story. And now we had this that we quite literally split it up into 2. We had our build up for the story, boom, you're a Dawn Servant, and then what we get on the second half, which is, oh hey, this thing's gonna end. There's a threat to the entire world. Hi, I'm gonna kick your ass. There was no build up to that during the first half of the story. There was like 0 build up. It's just we were getting ready to go somewhere, and boom, dome of lightning over top of our last destination. that was pretty much it. And I was wondering once I got into Shaloni the first time, I was just like, where did Zeralja go? Where is he? He was just kind of in the back of my mind. I'm just like, I haven't seen him. We saw him in the cutscene do the thing, and then that was it. Had no idea what he was doing. I suspected it had to do with what was in the trailer with the robot guys, and that was it. There was no real build up, just like wondering where Zeralja is, and then he's there, and all of that.
Dawn Trail genuinely doesn't do that much different than every other expansion. The difference is this time it's a fresh story, a fresh journey, and we're not already invested into what the next step of a previous story is. This is all brand new, and therefore we have just less forgiveness for its flaws. There are flaws in every single part of the previous MSQs, and there are missteps here. I'm sure in Japan right now, they are looking at all the feedback and deciding what are we going to do. I truly believe when Yoshi P told the US media tour people that this is throwing stuff at the wall. See what sticks, what do fans like, what they don't like, and that will shape the direction of where we're going forward, similar to what happened in A Realm Reborn. Now, they obviously have a master design of what the story is going to be for content creation's sake, but now they will decide which way to go. Will they bench Wukelamat entirely and just move her out of the way? Or will they double down and try and rescue her? It did work for Lise in Stormblood, at least for me in the post-MSQ, so they could go
In the
that way.
post-MSQ.
There's a lot for them to solve now.
They could pull a Heian.
Reception so mixed? Why did they
Just
miss
let
the
him sit there
mark
and
with
do
so
his
many
thing.
different things? Is it a collision of the East-West finally coming to head in a new story? Is it simply player expectations are completely different? Do they want that younger audience instead and they need to move in a different direction? Who knows where it's going to go? But one thing I do know, we have a magic key. We know Azem's involved.
Yeah.
And we know that they are dramatically running out of ways to not have us explore all the other reflections. And we're going to be going on an adventure, and I'll certainly be there for it.
Yeah.
My final conclusion, Dawn Trail, divisive. I'll see you again.
Yeah, sure. Divisive. I'll give you that. I will give you that. And of course, it was Preach Gaming. I already gave it a like. Already subbed, so. But yeah, I'll probably upload this to YouTube later. And, reactions, whatnot. But yeah, that was, I think that since, we're going to be, the Chalice Cup key thing, I'm using my hands again to talk. The Chalice Cup key thing, we are going to definitely be using that to